Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to be making this lace frontal wig with this 613 hair, and I am also going to be coloring it dark roots with red ends. So please stay tuned and watch this entire slay. Alright, so I'm going to be using 3 bundles, 2 22s and a 20-inch and an 18-inch frontal as well. All of my bundles are 613, and I'm going to be using a medium-sized black wig cap. The wig cap can be black because, of course, I'm coloring the roots dark, so it's not going to matter what color the wig cap is anyway. So first, let's get started by putting my frontal onto my cap. I make sure the frontal is only a little bit in front of the cap. It does not have to be like an inch or 2 or anything like that. And I'm going to make sure that it's flat all the way down the sides completely. We don't want any buckles in this wig at all. So let's start with, of course, outlining my frontal with, of course, that heavy duty, extra sturdy crayon that I use. It's in the color gray, so I can see it really well. So I'm just gonna measure this, and this line acts as a barrier. Do not go past this line when sewing on your tracks with the sewing machine, okay, you guys? So after I'm done with that, I am completely done with the frontal. I don't need it anymore until the end, and this is how it looks. So now I can go ahead and start with marking the lines for my tracks. So I know how many lines I need already based on the amount of bundles I have. Of course, I end up, doubling my bundles. Sometimes I can even triple my bundles. If I have, 4 bundles, I think I've only done 1 wig where I needed to add 5 bundles in it, but doubling the tracks makes this so much easier. But making your lines gives you a guide of where you need to sew, and it makes things so much easier and faster when sewing on your tracks. And of course, the plastic underneath the wig cap is going to come off anyway, and then once you wash the wig, of course, the crayon is washable, so it's going to come off as well. No need to worry. Make your marks where you need to and you'll be fine. So I'm just going to finish making all of these marks on here. Then I can move on to doubling my tracks and, of course, adding them onto my wig cap. Now guys, this is definitely a guide to what you should be following when adding your tracks. If you get about halfway through and you notice I have a lot of hair left, I'm gonna have too much hair left when it comes down to it, don't be afraid to start tripling your tracks, even if you get, halfway through or so on and so forth. As long as you fit all of the tracks on there for your client or for yourself, you should be fine and everything is gonna be good. So of course, I'm just using black thread. The roots are gonna be dark, and I am doubling my tracks all the way through. All I did was put both of my 22 inches on top of each other, and then I just sewed them down together to make one really long double track. So you can see stitching is A1. So we about to move on, finish this up, and then of course take my wig cap, put it on that sewing machine, and get started. Literally, it takes me like about, depending on how often I stop, it takes me about 2 hours to finish a wig, sometimes an hour and a half if I'm really focused and I'm moving through and my sewing machine acts right, because everybody knows sewing machines got their own mind sometimes, especially when I'm making a lot of wigs at one time. It starts to get tired. But I'm gonna go ahead and start with the back track, and I'm gonna sew that on completely, and then I'll move on. Of course, I cut the tracks when I'm sewing on the sewing machine. I do not flip over my tracks. There is a way to do it, but I just do not. I don't find that that's the flattest way for me to deliver great quality to my clients. So flipping the tracks ain't for me. So I am going to add these on, and then of course later on in the video, stay tuned, I'm going to be custom coloring this wig as well, and you guys will see all that action, what color I use and all of that later on in the video, so stay tuned for that. So FYI, you guys, when sewing my tracks together, I use a zigzag stitch, excuse me, to sew my tracks together. But when sewing my tracks onto my wig cap, I only use a straight stitch. It makes it so much easier to take the plastic off if you use a straight stitch. I have before used both. So through the mesh, sometimes I would use a zigzag stitch, and then of course through the plastic I would keep flipping back and forth and using the straight stitch as well. So if you want to create something that's your own, you can definitely customize these wigs to exactly what you need it to be. So as I go through, I make sure I am not going past my frontal line that I made in the very beginning. It's crucial because of course your frontal is going to be up there, and that part of the cap is going to be cut off, so you do not want to go in front of that line at all. Make sure you stop the tracks there. Alright, so I am done sewing all the tracks in, and I pretty much put everything in there. I think I only had like 1 inch of track left, which is perfect. So I am going to put this wig on my mannequin head, and of course I'm going to add my frontal onto the front of this wig cap. Alright, so pull all that hair back, add your frontal on. Make sure your frontal is just as flat as when you first just started, and then you guys can finish sewing it up. Cut off the bottom of that cap, and then you're pretty much ready to go. So when sewing, make sure you guys go through the lace, go through the nets, and go over the tracks as well, sewing everything together. I don't want to see any cap in between the wig, the frontal and the tracks. I want those to be super close together. So I make close stitches and I make sure I go through them both. And then for extra security, of course, you can go through after this part, you can go through with the sewing machine and just really anchor that frontal down to the wig cap, being very careful not to get the hair bunched up in the sewing machine, because there's a lot of hair right here at the crease. So as long as you guys really sew it down, go through the go over the tracks, through the frontal, and go through the wig cap, you guys should be perfectly fine. All right, so this step, of course, you guys know, got to cut this cap off from underneath this frontal, and then I will take off that plastic as well from underneath the frontal to make it ventilated. We want all that air to get in there to all your clients' scalps, keep their scalp healthy and, you know, real good and flowing. So cut this wig cap off. Be sure not to cut any strings or anything like that. You do not want that frontal to be slipping. And then of course, it's easy to take this plastic off. All you do is pull it apart and then it just comes off. All you gotta do is pull it off with your fingers. Any small parts, of course, you can use your tweezers for if you need to really get in there and get every piece of plastic off. All right, so we are completely done. stay tuned, y'all. The color is next, and we about to get this red popping. All right, don't forget to subscribe, guys.